Our last argument, I was so upset, like so mad. I'm like, don't talk to me, don't look at me. I don't want nothing to do with you. In this video, we're gonna give you guys 6 things that we go through when we're having an argument, and we're gonna talk about how we live that out practically at the end of the video.
So the first thing we try to do is remember who we married. The Bible says he who finds a good wife finds a good thing. But when you're in the middle of an argument, it is hard to see that person as a good thing anymore. Like all those vows you said on your wedding day are out the window. And it's like you can only see this person like as almost, I don't want to say an enemy, but like, yo, we not on good terms right now. Yeah. And I think it's really important to recenter yourself and remember that this is a person that you chose for a reason. This is a person that you know probably would not intentionally do you harm, loves you deeply, is committed to you. And so trying to like refocus your mind to know this isn't like an enemy or someone who's like trying to harm you, but this is your wife or your husband.
Right. The second thing we like to do is just identify the issue, because like I know for me, you know, I get angry, right? And so anger, I remind myself that anger is just an emotion. And it's the emotion as a result of something that happened. Like there was a cause, there was a trigger that made you feel this way, right? And so instead of spending all my time wrapped up in my anger, you know, I try and think about why, like what specifically happened that caused me to have these feelings, you know? And that's not always like a 10-minute process, you know, it could take some time, right? Especially for me. But I think that, you know, it helps you in figuring out how to handle the conflict moving forward.
Right, because so many times, like, we just arguing about being mad. Like, I'm mad, you mad, and we just talking about being mad, and we not addressing anything. We're still at the same spot, you know, hours later, as opposed to figuring out what it is that we're actually upset about. And so the next point, and it's just such a key point, is letting go of your pride. I feel like once you go into the situation with pride, it's almost impossible to hear what the other person is saying, because in your mind, you're right and they're wrong, and you're just looking to justify yourself. And until you let go of your pride, you're never really going to be able to put yourself in a position to honestly come together and have any resolution.
Right, and that goes straight into our next one, which is having an honest and respectful discussion, you know? And I think that, like you said, you have to make sure that you guys are able to come together and really allow yourself to think about, you know, the other person's perspective, listen to what the other person has to say, be really honest in, you know, what happened, the progression. This caused me to feel this way, and not really hold back and feel like your partner will allow you that space to be open and not like, you know, take it personally.
Right, and both parts are so important, the honest and respectful part. Like, because if you're not being honest, oftentimes, you know, we don't want to completely open up and expose ourselves to our true feelings, because maybe we're afraid of getting hurt, or maybe we're afraid of hurting our partner. But if we aren't honest, it's like you might be fixing something that isn't the actual problem. And also the respect part. Like if you come at it and someone, like when somebody comes at you and it's like, you did this, you did that, it's kind of hard to really receive that in a positive way and not to become like defensive. And so like if your goal is to ultimately come back together, it is a much better approach to have, you know, a more respectful and humble attitude as you're talking to your partner.
Right. I feel like everybody, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people have heard this thing where people are like, when you're you're talking to your partner, you're like, when you did this, it made me feel like this. Like this is the part where that comes into play,
right,
you know?
Right. And then like the next step is the resolution and discussing like what are we going to do moving forward? Like what are we going to change? What have we learned about this? And how are we going to adjust so that, you know, we can be stronger together?
Right. And I think also included in this step is that's where the apology comes in, right? Like both parties apologizing for the part that they played in the conflict as a whole, you know, because both parties played a part, you know.
Right. Like even if you didn't start it, you might have continued it, and that's still part of the issue altogether. Yeah. And like the last thing, and really is the most important thing, is looking at the example of Christ. Like oftentimes when someone upsets you, it's because like they've let you down, like they haven't lived up to some standard or some expectation that we had. But if we're honest, like we don't even live up to our own expectations or our own standards, not to mention the perfect standard of God, right? And so when we offended him, his response wasn't to cast us off, but his response was to nail his own son to the cross so that we could be forgiven, right? And so like when you see that example of love and that example of forgiveness, and you say that you're following your life is modeled off of that example, then you have to, you're going to be compelled to forgive your wife, forgive your husband, because you too have been forgiven so much.
Right. And I think another key part in that forgiveness is just making sure that you actually forgive. Like, you forgive the person, you move forward, you're not bringing up old stuff, 2 weeks from now. You're not holding any grudges, because that's not forgiving.
Right. But now that we got all that, goody stuff out the window, how does it really be in our relationship? What really happens when we argue with each other?
Right. And I think for me, the hardest step is to identify the issue, because I think that it's so easy for me to allow my anger, allow my emotions to get the best of me. Like our last argument, I was so upset, like so mad. I'm like, don't talk to me, don't look at me, I don't want nothing to do with you. I'm thinking in my head, I'm going through the argument, I'm going through everything that happened and what I should have said and how I should have said it, and he did this and blah blah blah. And it honestly really took me a long time to come down from that. And I think the whole not talking to him was good, because it allowed me to kind of process my emotions, and in that time I was able to identify, okay, what really happened, and then I was able to kind of let go of it. But yeah, that's a hard one for me.
Yeah, and for me, like most of the times the frustration is like trying to show Jazz why she's wrong, because clearly, right?
No, but I do want to say though, like for me, in our last argument, it took like 2 days before we came around to the discussion part. That's
not typical. I feel like we usually talk about it the same day. For me,
and I wasn't mad the whole time. It just
we just forgot to talk about it. And
I didn't forget. I
forgot.
Wasn't ready to talk about it.
For me, oftentimes what happens to me is I'll get upset, but like I get over it almost instantly. So now I'm just kind of like, okay, just waiting on you to be ready to talk about it. I'm good. But I did realize one thing though, because oftentimes when I'm over it and I've forgiven her in my heart, but she's still upset and she's going through her emotions, I think that sometimes maybe I have grown some resentment towards her for that. It's like, why can't you not allow your emotions just to dictate how you're living, or just completely just take control of you? Like, how come you can't just do it the way I'm doing it, right? And so like the last argument we had, like I had a moment in my head where I was like, I could just keep it to myself and like forgive and just let time. But I was like, no, I want to like lash out a little bit, and so I did, and like I knew it was wrong. But it felt good. It felt good in the moment. But I knew it was wrong. And it's like, if I don't address that resentment, because like I shouldn't be forgiving and then feeling resentment for forgiving. I should be forgiving and feeling love and feeling like, wow, I get to forgive my wife. You know what I mean? And so I think that's that's what's been a challenge for me in arguments.
Yeah. And as you can see, we got some things to work on. I know that I need to work on.
Here's the thing, guys. Emotions. Here's the thing. In so many of our videos that we recorded, before we've recorded, or like in between takes, we be at each other's neck, yo. Oh my goodness. It's hard. We know we're on the same page. I'd be like, why'd you say it like that? She'd be like, why'd you say it like this? And I'm just like going back and forth, like even before this video. Anywho, God's working on us.
Yeah, he really is. But I think we've gotten a lot better at it. It only took, how many years have we been at it? I mean, it took some time, but I think we got better, and we still are doing a lot of work towards that. But this process definitely has, helped us and made us better, and I think we have less arguments.
Oh, for sure.
Because of that.
But yeah, if you're still watching, we haven't said it in the beginning yet, but if you're still watching, you know, and you haven't subscribed to our channel, we love it if you subscribe and, you know, join us on this journey as we navigate life from a Christian perspective. If you like the video, found any value in it, found it entertaining, hit that like button. So that, you know, it helps the whole algorithm thing, let other people see what we're doing here.
Right, and if you really like us, you would push the notification bell,
Oh.
so that way you know when we post another video, so you could be on it.
But outside of that, that's it.
See ya.